Welcome to the Culture OC podcast. Our guest today is Steve Marchese, a serial entrepreneur, loving husband, father, and grandfather. I'm very grateful to have you here today, Steve. They're also the founder, creator, and developer of LightStim, our red light devices that we use here at Culture. And we're going to dive into everything today from Steve's journey on his personal journey as an entrepreneur, and then diving deep into LED light therapy. You are the guru in that, so thank you for being here today.
Yeah, no problem. Love it.
Yeah, so I'm very honored to have you here. Not only are you someone that is a mentor to me, you're also my best friend, and you've had a huge impact on my life. But not only that, what you've done with LED light therapy and light stimulation, as you refer to it, because therapy isn't technically the correct term, you've had a huge impact over the last 20 years from the aesthetic industry and now into, healing and regeneration. Tell us a little bit about your journey, not through where LightStim is at now, but from where you started in regards to your early days of entrepreneurship.
Early days of entrepreneurship, I think, started when I was probably around 21, and I started detailing cars. And that actually grew into a national franchise where we sold 155 franchises across the U.S. and had major press. It was really amazing because it was a sexy story. It was like Newport Beach and nice cars, and so everybody wanted to do a story on it. And we were like ABC, NBC, CBS, National News, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, The Today Show, like every magazine you could imagine. Like, it was crazy. And we sold out of that in 2001. It was actually 3 days after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
We closed escrow, and I say we because my wife and I have worked together since I met her, really, when she was 16 and I was 22.
Yeah.
And then we built custom homes, like large custom homes, for about 6 or 7 years, and then one of her girlfriends told her about this LED light that made her wrinkles get better. And so Joni got one from I guess the girl knew the inventor of it.
Yeah.
And Joni used it for, I don't know, maybe like a couple of months. And she noticed like changes in her face that were better. Instead of looking in the mirror and being critical of herself, she looked in the mirror and goes, I might look a little better there. Like, maybe that wrinkle is a tiny bit gone, And she kept using it. And then not only did you see the start of wrinkle reduction, but also starting to tighten up here. So she wrote a nice testimonial to the company. And the company at the time was two inventors working out of their garage, which she didn't know that. And she just thanked them for the product. And they contacted her and said, you're nice looking and you're the right age. Like, would you be a spokesperson for us? Which we thought was kind of funny. It was cute, and she goes, I'm not doing anything. Sure. Because we were in between businesses at the time. We were just kind of winding down the custom home building thing. And so they came over and they were, in the living room shooting a video of her. It was back when you used to get a CD along with any product that you bought, and you stick it in, and they,
Yeah.
instead of an instruction manual. And while they were in the living room, I doing the interview with her, I was in our home office with the main inventor, and I realized that, like, he didn't, typical kind of inventor, like, he didn't even know it, but he was out of business.
Yeah.
He was bankrupt, and he had actually bankrupted everybody around him. And not a bad bone in the guy's body. He's just like, he didn't know. Like, he just like didn't know business and was kind of a little bit of a dreamer, but was really really ahead of his time engineering wise.
Yeah.
With LED. And so I actually made a deal with him to buy the company, and as of about, I think it was early November or late October of 2007, we started LightStim as a new company. We just bought the technology from him.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, we'll go through a few different things, but just we're in a country here where the divorce rate is, up to 50% of people get divorced.
Yeah.
And now I personally know you and Joni, you have a beautiful love story, a beautiful marriage, but you also work together. Share a bit of the dynamic of how that works, and how, if a couple was watching and they're working together, what has really made that a powerful impact for you two working together in regards to how you work together, and what really makes that a strong connection and forged together.
It's kind of really strange because we don't work at it. I've always, like, even if you could consider being a CEO of a development company when we're building homes, but I've kind of always been the CEO and she's always been the president. She's very good at day-to-day operations and working with, a big array of different kinds of personalities and stuff in the different departments. And I'm terrible at that. And but what I was always good at was making deals and sales and that sort of thing, and which she was terrible at. And so we just, like, naturally just kind of stayed out of each other's way and went at doing our own jobs. And it's just, I'm really lucky. It's been very, very easy, actually. Like, most people have to work at it. I feel bad sometimes when I'm talking to people, because we haven't worked at anything like our ever, like,
Yeah.
since I met her on the beach in Newport.
Yeah, and there's also been times, I know a lot of your stories where you've made decisions and choices where, LightStim is a family-run business where they're like, Dad, or Steve, what are you doing, type thing. But a little bit of your intuitive insight into business, because you have gone out and done things and just believed in what you're doing when there has been some pushback from people around you. What makes you so confident in regards to the decisions you make? What is there a feeling you get, or is it just like are you just set on knowing that that's the right thing to do?
I'm really sure about a lot of things that I don't know at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that I don't know at all. But when I know about something, like, I know about it, and I really, I mean, rarely have I run up against a case where I was, like, dead wrong.
Yeah.
Like, other than people, I've been taken to the cleaners by a number of people who told me they were going to do this great thing for us and do that great thing for us, and didn't end up doing anything and cost us a couple $100,000. And but no, I think it's a really small area that I can say I really know something about.
Yeah.
So we've been successful in a number of things, but really luckily, because usually when somebody's successful in one thing, that's the end of it after that. Like,
And is there a level of risk taking within that, like not holding back from something and taking the risk to go to the next level?
oh yeah, we go to Vegas a lot because there's a lot of trade shows there. And I never gamble. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't imagine gambling. I'll go, okay, let's take $100 and see how fast we can lose it.
Yeah.
Because we're going to lose it eventually. So that's like, hell with it. Let's just get on with, having a drink and enjoying Vegas. But in business, I'll take huge risks. Like LightStim actually took every single penny that we ever earned our whole life, like from the franchise days and everything, all building homes. Like, we put everything that we had. We didn't have nothing left. No savings, no nothing. I didn't even take a paycheck. Neither of us took a paycheck for 5-6 years.
Yep.
And then she got a small paycheck of like 50 or 60 grand a year, or for a while, and it all just got invested back in the business for a long time.
Yeah. Now, going into LightStim, for the most part, it was more around aesthetics to start with, if I'm correct.
Completely.
And if you can share, I know that the development of the bed was something that came out of a challenge with one of your sons who became sick.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit about that story in regards to the evolution of the bed and more of the medical healing side of LED therapy or
Sure.
stimulation?
So Chase, our son, works with us, and he's our COO. He oversees manufacturing and regulatory and R&D. And when he was 21, he's 36 now, but when he was 21, he went in the hospital to have his tonsils out, and he was in recovery, and everything was fine. And then 2 hours later, everything wasn't fine. All of his vital signs went south, and his blood pressure shot up to 215 over 165. He started hemorrhaging. They threw him back into surgery, 4 hours more, kept him for 4 days, gave him back to us, and went, your son is like dangerously high blood pressure. Like he could have a stroke and he could die. Like you need to do something right now. And we're like shit. We're normally alternative minded when it comes to medical stuff.
Yep.
But when somebody tells you that your kid can have a heart attack or a stroke and possibly die, like that went right out the window. We went straight to regular medicine. They put him on the drugs, which literally could have made him impotent as a male. That is one of the side effects of the drug that he was on, the high blood pressure drug he was on. And it only dropped to 3 points.
Yep.
And we're like, okay, hell with this. Like we're going to go do what we know. And so we started, because we sell to 50,000 spas, med spas, doctors, wellness centers across the U.S. So we kind of know everybody, and we took them to naturopaths. We took them to integrative medicine doctors, to anti-aging doctors, to Chinese medicine. Like nobody ever found anything wrong with him, and nothing lowered his blood pressure.
Yeah.
And then he and I were talking one day, and I noticed that I just kind of realized that every day about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he would just pass out.
Yep.
And like no energy. And this is not a lazy kid. This kid is not like your typical millennial, like he works his tail off and good kid. And, but I said to him, I go, you pass out every day around 2, like maybe that's what's wrong. Maybe your cells don't have enough ATP, the fuel source of our cells.
Yep.
Maybe they don't, for some reason, they're not producing enough ATP. And so the cells don't have enough energy to actually carry out the functions that they should be carrying out with any of these protocols you've been given. So we should just build like a full body something. I didn't even really know what to call it. And we'll use wavelengths that we know that the mitochondria absorbs and converts to ATP.
Yep.
And see what happens. It's basically a Hail Mary that, like we didn't know anything else. There was nothing else we could do. We were in apathy over it. Like we were pretty distraught over it. We're really close with him. He and his kids and his wife come over every Sunday. We're very, very tight family. So the bed actually took 6 years to perfect and to get through the FDA and all the barriers that the FDA saw to efficacy. But in 60 days, he and a welder and an engineer, and I say a welder because they took 1/4-inch steel plate, about 8 inches tall and 7 feet long, and they basically made what looks like a coffin with a white piece of, or a clear piece of glass, a straight piece of glass on top of it, and we painted it white because everything that LightStim does is white. It's all kind of Apple-esque, he laid on it 3 days a week. It didn't have any of the sophisticated engineering that the bed has now, just the same wavelengths. Lays on it 3 days a week. 2 months later, his blood pressure is 130 over 80.
That's crazy.
And we're like, we should build this thing. Like maybe this could help a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that was the start of the bed, basically.
So, that's a you took this risk, or not risk, you took this opportunity with the information that you had based on just the aesthetics industry. And, you have this prime example, your son who's got this issue, and then you help with this healing process. So tell us a little bit about the technology of the bed. So some of the wavelengths of light that's in it. I know, and some of the journey through the FDA approval, because I know all about it in regards to the sensors in it and getting even transfer of heat across the body, and all the stuff you had to go through in regards to light projection. But tell us a little bit about that journey. And also, we'll dive more into why the LightStim bed has this FDA approval and why it stands out above a lot of these other devices on the market.
So when we decided to go ahead and and build it as a commercial product, the first thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to go meet with the FDA, and we had developed a really good relationship with the FDA, and I didn't want to spend millions of dollars and years developing something, and that is what we thought it would be, and it was, and then take it to them and have them go, sorry, you completely blew it here, you know, like, and so I went and met with the assistant deputy director of the FDA, who I had formed a relationship with over the years, and said, hey, we want to build an LED bed, and I need a heads up engineering wise. I don't want to, you know, develop the wrong thing. And he goes, Steve, I'm going to save you a bunch of money. He goes, don't bother developing an LED bed, and definitely don't write the FDA a check, because you're never going to get it approved because they don't work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they don't work? We're like, what do you mean? This is just a larger iteration of other clearances that we've got. And he said, yeah, but they're all just lighting up the skin. Nobody's getting any penetration. And this is not an aesthetic device. This is a wellness device. So you're going to need to affect a lot of cells in a positive manner to ever get any kind of a measurable change for the better. So I'm like, okay, well, why aren't they getting penetration? Like, and that was the start of a 6-year conversation with the FDA, and during which we learned 3 things basically. So, you know, as a brand, we are the largest manufacturer in the United States of red light therapy or LED medical devices, and maybe in the world, because I only know of factories that are bigger in China that they don't have their own brand. They just make them for anybody that wants to buy them and then import them into the U.S. basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're very knowledgeable. We've got great engineers who, like the best engineers on the planet for LED, so, you know, the first thing was, like, we knew that, like, that light loses power exponentially as you leave the tip of the bulb. What we had no idea was that if you were further away than about 3/4 of an inch, there's no way you're going to get any penetration. LED just loses its intensity too quickly, so this is why we built a one-sided bed that you flip on halfway through the treatment, and we made it so you're actually only about 1/4 inch off the tip of the bulb. And so then like, we're making many iterations of the bed during this 6 years, like, as we're trying to develop this thing before we ever put it on the market. So the next thing we did was, like, we realized we had to be ordering LEDs that were emitting light at somewhere between about 15 and 50 degrees, and any wider than that, and they just lose their intensity too quickly. But what we had no idea of was when this 15 to, let's say, 45 degrees, something like that, hit the acrylic that you lay on that just divides your body from actually touching the LEDs, it was going like this. It was dispersing out to 180 degrees. Didn't matter we were that close. Didn't matter we had the right angle of light being emitted from the light. It was killing any penetration at all. So then Chase, my son, goes out and he buys, like, every LED device on the market. Everybody has this problem. And you might go, well, you know, you guys have been doing this forever. You know, why didn't you know about this problem? Well, we didn't know about this problem because before the bed, the only thing we made was handhelds and panels for the face, for mostly for doctors and medi spas, that sort of thing.
And which they didn't have any acrylic over them.
They're the only company in the world that didn't put an acrylic over their LEDs, and whose FDA approved instructions say touch the LEDs to your skin, like for a handheld.
Yep.
And so Chase starts researching the largest manufacturers of acrylics in the U.S. and starts working with 4 biggest acrylic manufacturers, and for 2 years before they actually came up with an acrylic that actually let that angle of light go through without dispersing it.
Yeah.
So we had solved 2 of the 3 problems that we were going to have to solve to actually get FDA clearance now. And the third one was the FDA's test for efficacy. So the FDA at some point had, from clinical studies they've seen and that sort of thing, had determined that there's a certain temperature range that you're going to get the most benefits from. And yes, there might be some benefits below that range, and there might be some above it, but not enough to make a big difference. But in that range, that's where the body needed to be, basically. So their test was, for efficacy, was to be able to raise the tissue temperature of your entire body, like to that level. And it's basically, it's about 104 to 111 degrees, which sounds really hot. And for an outside temperature, that is really hot. If your skin was at 104 degrees and I asked you to describe it, you would go, oh, that's like this, like it feels like a soothing, gentle warmth that makes me want to feel like I fall asleep.
Yeah.
So nobody had ever been able to pass this test. And the reason nobody had ever passed it is when you lay your body on a sheet or a layer of LEDs, best case scenario is your torso that has a lot of mass to it might hit that 104 degrees, maybe. But your arms and legs, no way. They just don't have enough mass. They dissipate heat as soon as you're feeding it to them. So really, your arms and legs, according to Google, are between 58 and 68% of your total body mass. So more than half of your body, no way is anybody going to, been able to get to this temperature range.
Yep.
And it's not even like I said, it's not even a sweating range or anything like that. It's just like really comfortable, but it is precise. My son came up with this idea of, instead of having just a sheet or a layer of LEDs, which up to this point, that's what all of the beds that we produced did have. He said, he's going to divide it up into different sections, and he divided it up into what he called modules, and they were little modules, like little, like almost like a piece of Tupperware you'd consider, or something like that, with an LED PCB printed circuit board with LEDs, and it sits on the top of it, on top of this module, and electronics inside each module. There were 30 of them, but the key was that in the center of each one of these modules there was a sensor, a special sensor that we have made for us, and all this stuff is made in our factory in Irvine, California. And so when you lay on our bed, doesn't matter what you do with your arms and legs, doesn't matter if you move them during the treatment, everybody does that. But in a millisecond, each of these sensors has figured out for the body part that's touching it what the temperature of that one module has to be to bring that body part up to this range and then hold it during the treatment time. And we patented it. And that worked. And so we're the first, and still I don't know anybody that's ever been able to pass that test.
Yeah.
There have been people that have taken one reading and said that was, they passed the test, but if you're showing people that you're doing a full body treatment, whether it's on a tanning bed that's been retrofitted with LEDs or a panel that hangs on a wall, if the consumer thinks that it's that they're getting a full body treatment, you better be giving them a full body treatment.
Yeah. So what are the specifics behind the reasoning for raising the tissue temperature? Like, what is happening biologically for that purpose of raising the temperature?
I don't know.
So that was just part of the FDA's efficacy.
Yeah.
All right. So
I have a director of education that could probably answer it pretty intelligently, but
all right. So now in the bed we have two different wavelengths of red light and two different wavelengths of infrared light. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Now, I share this with my clients. These are actually natural rays of light we would naturally get from the early morning and late afternoon sun.
Right.
We're just not exposed to the sun at the right times of day and enough to really get the benefits. And no one's running around naked getting their full body access to that light. What are those specific light wave frequencies doing on a biological point of view when someone's lying on the bed?
and that is true too. What you say about running, it's good that you said about running around naked, like because you have to be naked.
Yeah.
Like so, if you're standing in front of a panel in your gym clothes, exercising 2 feet away, 6 inches away, there's nothing happening because that LED ain't going through your clothes. It isn't doing anything that far away, and we already talked about like you really need to be like that close. So. So those wavelengths are what got us our initial FDA clearance was for muscle and joint pain, for arthritic pain and stiffness because the infrared is actually reducing the inflammation, and for increased blood circulation, and that brings oxygen and nutrients to help heal. But the other things that the wavelengths are doing, like the 2 red wavelengths, they're basically between around 630 and 660, but there's plus or minuses on each end. And so they're increasing ATP. That there's been many studies that have been shown that the mitochondria absorbs those wavelengths and converts it to ATP, and then the cells start producing more collagen and elastin, let's say, for in the face or whatever their job is, they've got energy to do that. But also releasing serotonin and dopamine.
Yep.
So there are psychiatric centers that are using LED for depression.
Yeah, right.
Actually, probably the big thing is something that not a lot of people know much about, which is nitric oxide, which is a signaling molecule in the body. It was discovered in the mid-90s by 3 scientists, and after the discovery, a lot of scientists around the world started doing studies where they artificially raised the nitric oxide levels of the participants in these clinical studies to see what kind of maladies of the body, what kind of diseases it might help with if they had a high level of nitric oxide. And I didn't mention this earlier, but ATP, we actually produce less of it every decade we're alive, about 8 to 10% less every decade we're alive after 20 years old.
Yep.
Nitric oxide is not necessarily like that. We may produce a little bit less of it, but what the big killer is that we're getting a higher and higher percentage of what we produce is actually being trapped in the mitochondria of the cell, in the exact place where the mitochondria produces ATP, and it inhibits the production of ATP to the tune of 8 to 10% less every decade.
Yep.
And because it's trapped in this position in the mitochondria, it's unavailable for the body to utilize. And the right wavelengths of LED can release that trapped nitric oxide and make it available. And the studies that they did, the completed successful studies they did, showed that when you have a high level of nitric oxide, it reduces heart attacks, it reduces strokes, it increases blood flow to the brain. For women, it increases libido. Men, it makes their erectile dysfunction drugs work 2 times as good. It builds the immune system. For athletes, it gives them more strength, more stamina, and a faster recovery time. So we have a lot of celebrity-level pro athletes that have our bed in their home and use it for recovery, not just from day-to-day getting banged up, like just the regular game, but also when they have injuries. And then, lo and behold, nitric oxide, when you have a high level of it available, it lowers high blood pressure.
Right.
So I was completely wrong about the ATP for my son. That isn't what helped him. It was actually nitric oxide that lowered his blood pressure and saved him.
So from an FDA point of view, with all the clinical trials you've been through, from that standard, what is the bed classed as being passed for from a clinical point of view in regards to FDA approval? Like what you can say, because
what we promote that the bed can do is what the FDA clearance is for, which is for all different types of muscle and joint pain, arthritic pain and stiffness, and then increased blood circulation.
Yeah.
You know, the only other thing that we are presently working with the FDA on a high blood pressure study. It's been 3 years now,
Yep.
and we actually lowered high blood pressure between 2 and 4 times more than drugs.
Yeah, right. Now, I mean, you're restricted by what you can say in regards to what
Well, that device hasn't been released yet. That's what we're still working with the FDA on.
Yeah, but I mean, you're restricted by what you can say because you're the developer of a company that provides these devices. But me as a biohacker, we've seen a whole huge array of other things being promoted and significant signs of hair regrowth, regeneration of eyesight, a whole multitude of different things. And even here at Culture, you know, I work with your bed among other combined therapies such as oxygen therapy and PMF. And some of the things our clients have had, which they've been unbeknown to, going through their protocols over 3 months, they've seen results in the reducing of cysts on ovaries, the minimizing of like bumps and moles and different things on their skin. So we continuously find different things that these, you know, technologies are really benefiting us for. Obviously, you know, with the FDA, you have to go through all these different hurdles to get approval so you can actually say that, you know, make these claims. You touched on before about the industry and different devices where you see these advertisements with panels on the doors and people are so far away from it and they're fully clothed. Tell us a bit about the industry in regards to the efficacy of light devices versus what you've been through and what you're seeing with these other devices on the market.
So it's kind of a bigger story than just LED in that in April of 23, the Federal Trade Commission put out a warning letter and to the health and wellness industry. And they basically said in the warning letter, they said, and you could Google warning letter, FTC warning letter, April of 23 for the health and wellness industry. It'll come right up to verify what I'm saying. But basically they're saying that, like, to the health and wellness industry, you guys are duping the public with unsubstantiated claims and we're coming after you. Yeah. And not only are we coming after you, we've already identified, investigated, and penalized 670 companies. And I don't know how many since then they've done, but that was April of 23. Right after that, the class action lawsuit firms in the US saw that and they went, that's low-hanging fruit for us. We could go after these people in these industries and we've got the government behind us. And they did, and they've started lawsuits. They actually came after us. They looked at the LED industry and they were like, LightStim, like, let's go after them. And 6 weeks and, you know, 50 grand later in legal fees, after showing them every device we have is FDA cleared. Every one of them we did clinical studies for. Every one of them we've got clearance for, with the FDA letter telling us what wording we can use in our advertising. And when they saw that, they canceled the suit. They actually asked me if I would work for them, if I would consult for them, and I'm not going to do that, no. But so they're running ads right now on social media that say basically, like, if you've tried one of these devices and haven't gotten the results that you thought you should have got, call this number. And so that's going on now, and there's been small companies and big companies that have there's been lawsuits brought against, and then about 9 months ago, one of the largest law firms in the U.S. Called King and Spalding, they're headquartered in Washington, D.C. They have 1,300 plus attorneys, and they have about a 25-year relationship with the FDA and the FTC working with them. And they put out a white paper on something called the exemption, the LED exemption. So the LED exemption came out in, I think it was January 2020, and everybody thought, and I'm going to say everybody thought and that nobody read it, because I'd rather say that than to think that everybody was a criminal, but everybody thought that LED was now exempt, like you could just put it on the market, and and we even thought that. We didn't change our operating basis. We still took everything that we did through the FDA. But that was when we saw this proliferation of LEDs come on the market, and particularly full body devices. So anyway, this 6-page white paper that they wrote just basically goes into what the actual exemption that the FDA wrote was, and it wasn't what we all thought it was. It wasn't that you could just put a device on the market. You actually had to qualify to be exempt, to participate in the exemption. And the two qualifications for participating in the exemption, the first one was you have to have the same claims as a device that's FDA cleared. So basically the same claims as LightStim's LED bed has, and nothing more. Everybody could fix that tonight. It's digital, no problem. Just change your marketing.
Yeah.
Stop telling people that their testosterone is going to increase from LED, because there's been no clinical studies for that.
Yep.
And the other things that go on. But the second thing said you have got to have the same scientific technology. So from the FDA's standpoint, they would think if a device has the same scientific technology as a device that got through the FDA for FDA clearance, then they're going to be safe and they're going to be effective. But the problem is nobody has that technology to pass that efficacy test, because we patented it.
Yep.
But if you somehow did have that technology, now you qualify to be exempt. And to be exempt, now what you have to do is you have to do every single test, and everything that we had to do over the 6-year period with the FDA, pass all those tests, put them in a folder, stick it in a file, so that when the FDA or the FTC walks in your door someday, and someday they are going to walk in their door, the FDA actually does it with guns. Like they are carrying guns when they come in for an inspection on our facility.
Yeah.
And a surprise inspection, by the way.
Yeah.
but not that, like, I've had a great relationship with the FDA. I find that if you're ethical and you do the right things, they're great people to work with.
Yep.
When they come in one day, you could go, look, I followed the exemption to the T. Here's every single test. Here's my 300-page test on EMF. Like, everybody's worried about EMF. 300 pages. Took us 30 times back to the lab and over $1 million to pass that one test for the FDA. So that's what's happening in the industry. And basically, like, people aren't getting what they think they're getting.
Yeah.
And it's because they're not getting depth of penetration, and because of distance mostly, but the acrylics too. And their whole body isn't being brought up to the temperature range where most benefits happen.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed. A lot of the devices on the market, they're advertising red light, specifically just red light. They don't have any infrared light in it, which you mentioned is one of the most important things in regards to increasing blood flow and circulation, which is a huge part of the healing aspect. And now, we see different color wavelengths of light. I know that you guys use blue light for acne treatment. Are there any other spectrums of light at the moment that you're aware of that provide any form of healing benefits? Like, I know your Pro panel, your anti-aging is red and amber plus infrared, and the bed has the 2 different wavelengths of red light, and then you have blue light for acne treatment. Are there any other wavelengths of light that you've seen in any studies that are providing any sort of healing benefits?
I see green light advertised as helping hyperpigmentation, but no studies, and I'd want to see 20 studies that weren't done by special interest groups, and because hyperpigmentation, you could try any color LED on it, and it'll work on one person, then it won't work on the next 10, and then it'll work on the next 3, and it won't work on the next 15, and no rhyme or reason for when it does work at all on hyperpigmentation.
Yeah.
And and I think blue will be gone in 5 years from now. I think it'll be replaced with red and infrared as a combination.
Okay.
And
for like acne and
yeah,
skin treatments.
yeah, we've actually done in-house studies, 3 of them now, and got much better results than the blue light studies that we did for the FDA for our clearances with blue light. Yeah.
And what are you guys? You're always designing new products. A big thing you see on the market at the moment is caps for hair loss.
Yeah.
Is there much clinical trials and studies that are showing promising results with that? And are you guys designing a product for hair growth?
That's all I can tell you is we're going to have a lot of products come out in the next 12 months. We just released the first one, which is our recovery loop, which is our wearable technology for pain and for increased blood circulation and for recovery from injury, recovery from just exercise. I can't tell you what the other ones are now, but there's quite a few of them. But I can tell you that there are a couple of those devices that are on the market now for hair regrowth that do work.
Yep.
I think that if we were to come out with a device like that, I think it would work really well because we have the added benefit of like multi-wave, and I want to clear that up. Multi-wave technology. So if you go back, so our device was the first device in the market to really to have multiple wavelengths, and the reason is why nobody used multiple wavelengths. And you could still look this up. You could Google this right now. What happens if you use multiple wavelengths simultaneously? Well, Google will tell you, and all kinds of science has been written on this, that they have a tendency to cancel one another out to a degree, to a huge degree, to a little degree, to some degree, different in each instance. But and so that was why nobody used multiple wavelengths. Our engineers, our inventors, I won't say that they were Einstein and they found their way around that envelope, that science envelope, but I would say more they tripped and face planted into it.
Yeah.
And
which, in all honesty, a lot of inventors and people who've created things do stumble upon things by accident, just by trial and error.
Yeah. So anyway, and so we came out with this, in 2000, February 2000, was when LightStim's first device hit the market, and basically because we had a multiple wavelength technology that actually worked and they didn't cancel one another out because of this little thing that the engineers found. Our devices worked better than anybody else's, and so word of mouth, because we're a family-run business, we didn't have the deep pockets to market ourselves into being the biggest company, but word of mouth among estheticians and doctors made us grow. And when everybody saw that we were growing, and it was like they chalked it up to our multiple wavelengths, they just went ahead and started, because nobody's been in the industry for long. Like when I got into the industry, I just studied for 3 years on light. That's all I did for 3 years. But everybody that's jumped into the business now, they're mostly marketers. They're really good marketers, and they just import stuff from China and sell it. But what happened was everybody just started building multiple wavelength devices because LightStim had them.
Yeah.
And which was really a benefit for us, because now their devices didn't work they were even worse now than having one wavelength.
Yep.
And there was a company called Baby Quasar who had 4 wavelengths, but they were smart. They were actually, the owners of the company were engineers, and they used one wavelength at a time, like one wavelength for 2 minutes, the next wavelength for 2 minutes, the next wavelength. And their devices worked really well. They're the only company that ever gave us a run for our money. Yeah. And that was back in, probably around 2010, something like that.
Yeah, wow.
They're gone now.
So, you've, outside of LightStim now, you've grown like multiple businesses on a large scale. From an entrepreneurial point of view, What would you say is the greatest foundation or piece of advice you would give like young entrepreneurs who are wanting to try and grow out a company on a large scale, in the sense of like what you do as an individual? And I know with LightStim, you guys have employees that have been with you for many years, holding on to that strong foundation of people that just are all in. They're a part of the product and they want to be a part of the team and the culture.
I think a lot of why employees have been with us for so long is because my wife is the president and runs the day-to-day operations, and she's really good that way in creating a culture.
Yep.
Like you have here at
Yeah.
Culture OC,
Culture,
yeah. Like our manufacturing employees have been with us between 12 and 17 years.
Yep.
Are all, short of new admin people, all of our office people, salespeople, that sort of thing have been with us between 5 and 12 years.
Yep.
And I think that's because we treat everybody like we're one big family.
Yeah.
And we take care of one another. And I think that the only reason that my wife and I were really successful in that franchise business, the automotive detailing business, and in building homes and in LightStim, and I think it was because of ethics.
Yep.
Like having a strong ethical stance from which you ran your business and didn't do unethical things. And sometimes that cost you a lot of money, like in around 2008 or 9 when all the devices came over from China and went on the shelves of Nordstrom's, Sephora, all your high-end prestige retailers. And they didn't have FDA clearance, and we didn't go on the shelves because we were worried that if we went on the shelves before getting FDA clearance, we could get a black mark forever with the FDA, and you weren't supposed to do that, so we didn't do it. We lost millions of dollars, and what actually happened was the retailers ended up losing millions of dollars because all these companies went out of business and their devices didn't work and they broke. And so then we got our FDA clearances starting around 2009 and through 12, and we went to those same retailers and we're like, hey, we're FDA cleared, and we've like clinical studies, and they're like, we don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
Because they got burned so bad. And then about 6-7 years later, they had forgot about it, and they all, like, we ended up selling with all of them again.
Oh, that's great.
But I think that that's a real basic in business. Like, you can make a lot of money, I guess, and take advantage of a lot of people with smoke and mirrors, but it's going to come back and get you someday.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to disclose your age. That's personal information to you, but you do look a hell of a lot younger than what you actually are. Is that a big credit to light therapy? Obviously, you have one at home and you use that rather regularly, and both you and Joni look stunning and beautiful and a lot younger than what you guys actually are. Is that a big part of like your biohacking or your health and longevity protocol?
Yeah, it's a huge part. I have pictures of me 20 years ago where I looked 15 or 20 years older than I do now.
Yeah.
Joni and I have been under the panel 3 to 5 days a week since 2010.
Yep.
And on the bed a similar amount of time, 3 to 5 days a week since 2000. About, I don't know, 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, since 2000, maybe 2015 on some of the early prototypes before we released the bed in 2016. Yeah. And my 30-year-old employees cannot keep up with us for travel or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I've been on holidays with you guys and traveled with you, and it's a challenge to keep up with you guys. You guys are a lot of fun. And one last little piece of advice: if anyone from an entrepreneurial point of view, they're going into business, what's one piece of advice that you would give someone starting out new that really helped you on your journey in regards to just pursuing your goals and your desires?
you kind of have to be a pit bull in that not giving up your dream,
Yep.
because life and business is going to do many things to make you initially think like this, like I'd just be better if I didn't do this, so you got to really resign yourself to, you're going to stick through it, through thick and thin.
So
'cause they'll be thin and they'll be thick, and
So you get many challenges and just never give up along the way.
yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Your insight has been amazing for the viewers. Okay, we went really deep into some of the technology and science, and you've been a huge mentor for me and my journey. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here. It's been a great pleasure having you on.
Oh, I love it. Love what you've done here with culture too.
All right. Thanks, mate.
All right. Bye.
All right.